When you hear the word algebra, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably school math class. But the real story of algebra is something else entirely. It's a story that isn't about abstract theory, but about solving very real problems for a growing society. Right. Numbers, school, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of frustration. Those are the things we tend to associate with algebra today, a system of X's and Y's that can feel pretty disconnected from our daily lives. But that modern feeling is a world away from why it was invented in the first place. You see, the history of algebra didn't start with a textbook. It started with a really fundamental question. How can we create a single, reliable way to figure out unknown values and bring some order to the complicated problems of the real world? To really get how revolutionary this was, you first have to picture the world before this system existed, a world without X. Before the 9th century, math was, well, it was kind of fragmented. Solutions were often written out in long sentences, like a paragraph explaining how to solve one specific problem. Each region had its own methods, and they were often based on intuition or just the way it's always been done, not on a consistent logic you could apply to everything. This scattered landscape was completely transformed by the work of one scholar. His ideas would lay a whole new foundation for how we think about math. Our story centers on Muhammad ibn Musa Al-Khwarizmi. He was a brilliant Persian scholar working at the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. Now, this place was the intellectual hub of the world during the Islamic Golden Age, a center dedicated to gathering and translating all of the world's knowledge. Al-Khwarizmi was driven by a really simple but powerful idea, that math should be a tool for clarity. He wanted to build a system that could take all the complexity of the world and make it simpler, giving people clear answers to real problems. In his most famous book, he laid out a method he called Algebra. The word itself means something like restoring or completion, and it referred to the process of balancing an equation by moving terms from one side to the other. This was a radical idea. Instead of just guessing, he created a step-by-step process, a system that could solve entire classes of equations. And that term, algebra, was eventually picked up in Latin and other European languages. Over hundreds of years, it slowly evolved into the word we all know today, algebra. Now, this is really important to understand. This new mathematical system wasn't just some academic exercise. It was built from the ground up to be practical. Al-Khwarizmi designed algebra to solve the day-to-day challenges of his time. We're talking about things like calculating inheritance based on detailed Islamic law, settling disputes in trade, surveying land for buildings, and even helping judges make fair decisions. This was the big shift he created. He took mathematics from something only discussed by thinkers and theorists and turned it into a functional tool for merchants, judges, engineers, and administrators. He made complex calculations accessible and reliable for everyone. The incredible thing is, the impact of this 1,200-year-old idea didn't stop in the 9th century. Its legacy is woven directly into the fabric of our modern world. So let's trace the journey of this idea. It started around 820 AD in Baghdad. A few centuries later, his work gets translated into Latin, and his methods spread all across Europe, helping to fuel the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. And today, his concepts are absolutely fundamental to almost every field of science and technology. But his influence doesn't stop with the word algebra. The Latin version of his own name, Al-Khwarizmi, started being used to describe his step-by-step methods. And eventually, it gave us another word, one that is absolutely central to our digital age. Algorithm. Yes, the word we use for any step-by-step procedure for calculation. The very logic that powers search engines, your social media feed, and pretty much all software is built on algorithms. And the name itself is a direct echo of the man who started it all. So, in the end, Al-Khwarizmi's greatest gift wasn't just a set of rules for math, it was a philosophy, a way of thinking. He showed the world that any complex problem could be systematically broken down into smaller, logical steps, and then solved. This way of thinking, of breaking down problems to solve them, all started with a scholar trying to solve practical issues more than 1,000 years ago. It's an intellectual framework that remains the cornerstone of science and technology, and it continues to shape the world we all live in today.